Chapter 251. Give a rundown on what you have on the Green Bamboo Association with me. Nash leaned back lazily into his seat and placed a hand holding his cigarette next to the window, his gestures casual and relaxed. The Green Bamboo Association was established in the early 50s, and they were first active around Grestin. Grestin was still an unclaimed territory back then, and it was constantly in chaos because different leaders were always fighting for power. The Green Bamboo Association was established by Dominic Carter, whose ancestors were part of the Green Forest Uprising. His family amassed quite a fortune, and he recruited dozens of outlaws to assist him in his fight for the land. It only took him 20 years before he unified Grestin and formed the country's largest deep state. After the handover in the late 80s, Grestin underwent massive restructuring, and the Green Bamboo Association collapsed from the intense pressure the soldiers put on them. Members fled to Sagan, and they became much less unbridled after having learned their lesson. They still managed to unify all the underground forces in Sagan in just 10 years, though. As society slowly became more civilized, the Green Bamboo Association began taking on a new form. On the surface, they seem to be running legitimate businesses when they're actually engaging in illegal activity. There are 10 juggernauts, 6 of whom you are acquainted with. The remaining 4 are Shadowblade, Kingerhead, Velvet Thunder, and Hoodlum. Zeno provided a comprehensive summary of the Green Bamboo Association. He felt equal parts excited and worried. Excited, because finally, someone was going to deal with the Green Bamboo Association. Worried, because he was afraid Nash was not capable of doing so. Also, the deputy president of the Green Bamboo Association is named Zachary Holt. A fearful look appeared in Zeno's eyes as he spoke. Nash sensed something was off and turned to ask, is he really powerful? He is the grim-faced juggernaut's husband, and rumor has it Dominic spent a fortune to get him on their side because he's a martial arts expert. As for his actual skills, I think he's achieved peak profound reality realm. Peak profound reality realm? Nash's eyebrows furrowed themselves together. He had only achieved the later stages of the profound reality realm. There was no way he could hold himself against someone who had achieved peak profound reality realm. Unless he used his magic. Yes. He has achieved peak profound reality realm. He's also recently holed himself away because he's working on achieving the Mystique Loyalty realm. Is that so? Nash took another puff of his cigarette before giving it a flick. The ashes soared through the air and landed in the ashtray above the trash can. Though magic was more powerful than martial arts, there was still a limit to how powerful it was. The Five Thunder Curse was a threat to a profound reality realm master, but it would not harm someone who had achieved the Mystique Loyalty realm. An analogy would be to imagine the Five Thunder Curse as a rock. The profound reality realm was ordinary glass, while the Mystique Loyalty realm was tempered glass. The rock could shatter ordinary glass, but not tempered glass. In fact, it might end up being chipped if it collided with tempered glass. Just then, 3 McLarens and 1 Rolls-Royce Cullinan pulled up to the Zabel mansion. When Zeno saw the license plates, he said, "These cars belong to the Lane family. Howard's only son, Frank Lane, has just returned to the country." "You're very well informed." Nash smiled before he got out of the car. Zeno clambered out and added, "Mr. Sky supplied me with 20 excellent investigators. They're great at gathering intel." Zachariah and Brian were exchanging pleasantries in the front yard. Zachariah was relieved to hear 3 of the Green Bamboo Association's juggernauts were dead. He turned and looked toward the entrance when he heard the commotion. 2 guards dressed in martial arts uniforms were holding back a group of unfriendly-looking men. Frank's eyes had red-colored rings around them, and he had a small white flower pinned to his lapel. Behind him was Simon and the hidden ghost juggernaut. Gloomy expressions appeared on their faces. Zachariah strode over to them, his eyes narrowing as he asked, "What are you doing here?" His granddaughter had been injured because of the hidden ghost juggernaut's gate crashing. He resented the Green Bamboo Association. "We heard the Smiling Grim Reaper was at President Zabel's home and have come to pay him a visit." The hidden ghost juggernaut stared at Zachariah, their face devoid of any expression. The grim-faced juggernaut had declared their suspicions of the Smiling Grim Reaper, while their spies claimed the Smiling Grim Reaper had never left the Zabel house. Hence, he decided to challenge the smiling Grim Reaper at the Zabel house. Chapter 252. You're not welcome here. Zachariah knew of Nash's alternate identity as the smiling Grim Reaper. Nash had gone to the Chateau Hotel last night, but the smiling Grim Reaper had soon turned up at the mansion. Initially, he had thought it was Justin pretending to be the smiling Grim Reaper again. He only realized when another smiling Grim Reaper turned up after the first one left that it had been Nash and that Justin was the second smiling Grim Reaper. Nash had probably donned the smiling Grim Reaper costume because he was going after Howard and the others. He had deduced that the deaths of Howard and the three juggernauts were Nash's doing. The fact that the hidden ghost juggernaut was here to see the smiling Grim Reaper meant they had been at the mansion last night and that they had not attacked because they knew the smiling Grim Reaper was here. Now, they were here to find out the smiling Grim Reaper's identity. However, it was only Justin pretending to be the smiling Grim Reaper now. Though they could not see Justin's face when he wore the costume, he did not have any of Nash's steadfast mannerisms. There was no doubt Justin would expose himself if he needed to face someone as powerful as the hidden ghost juggernaut, who was a profound reality realm expert. At the same time, in Scotty's bedroom on the second floor, Justin put on a Latin dance performance for Scotty while dressed in the smiling Grim Reaper's costume. Scotty had a disgusted look on her face. Do you know how long it's going to take me to erase the image of you dancing from my mind? The smiling Grim Reaper was supposed to be a cold-blooded killer. Yet, Justin was performing a Latin dance routine while wearing the smiling Grim Reaper's costume. It was so very contradictory to the smiling Grim Reaper's cold-blooded image. Then, Nash entered the door. Justin, the hidden ghost juggernaut wants to see you. The hidden ghost juggernaut? Want to see me? Justin shuddered. He nearly wet himself. Why did the hidden ghost juggernaut want to see him? Did they want to kill him? Nash smiled. Loan me your costume. He knew the Green Bamboo Association would discover the truth soon. Before that, though, he needed to stall them. Downstairs, the hidden ghost juggernaut slowly unsheathed his combat sword. The chilling glint refracted onto Zachariah's face, and he felt full-body chills. The profound reality realm master was putting a lot of pressure on him. Why do you wish to see me? Then, a low voice rang out from near the mansion's ceiling. The hidden ghost juggernaut immediately looked up, and their gaze collided with the smiling Grim Reaper's cold one. Zachariah thought it was Justin behind the mask, and he waggled his eyebrows furiously. This was a profound reality realm they were dealing with. They could kill Justin in an instant if they decided they wanted to. Simon walked over to the hidden ghost juggernaut and whispered, I bet this smiling Grim Reaper is an imposter who's trying to fool us. Let's kill him now. They would have attacked the Zabel family last night if the decoy smiling Grim Reaper had not been here last night. His grandfather would not have died for nothing either. The hidden ghost juggernaut narrowed their eyes, tightening their grip on the combat sword as they did so. He was still unsure if this smiling Grim Reaper was the real deal. If he was, their skills were no match for his. Nash tightened his grip on the diamond bayonet, a cold glint in his narrowed eyes. He did not want to kill the hidden ghost juggernaut inside the Zabel family home. If he did, there was no doubt the Zabel family would be targeted by the Green Bamboo Association. Come on, Juggernaut, attack him! Simon hurried forth and urged the hidden ghost juggernaut on when he noticed they had not moved. He wanted to get his revenge before rigor mortis set in completely on his grandfather's body. Shut up! The hidden ghost juggernaut slapped him. How dare a newly appointed faction leader boss him around? Simon's face got beaten to a pulp. However, Frank did not dare voice his anger. Chapter 253. The hidden ghost juggernaut raised their head and stared straight ahead as they asked coolly, Are you the real smiling Grim Reaper? A chilling murderous aura swept through the room. No one bled, but the rusty smell of blood permeated the air. The sun still hung high in the sky, but their surroundings turned chilly. Zachariah and Brian shuddered. The students of the Hero Martial Arts School felt a tightness in their chests, It was like a large, invisible hand wrapped around their throats. Was this just how terrifyingly powerful a profound reality realm master was? Was their aura enough for them to experience shortness of breath? Damn it! Nash snorted coolly before he leaped down and landed in front of the hidden ghost juggernaut. A terrifying, murderous aura washed over the room. Quick! Let's go. The expression on the hidden ghost juggernaut's face changed rapidly as he took numerous steps backward. He had grown accustomed to killing during his time in Greston during the 50s. In the dozen years that had passed since then, no less than 80 people had lost their lives because of him. The murderous aura that had accumulated within him was more than enough to assert dominance over a Stage 5 Grandmaster. However, the murderous aura that the smiling Grim Reaper emanated had completely pulverized his own. If his murderous aura could be described as the careless flow of a river, the smiling Grim Reaper's murderous aura was comparable to that of the crashing waves of an ocean during a massive storm. The two were not comparable at all. The hidden ghost juggernaut turned and walked away. Frank also realized this was the real smiling Grim Reaper they were dealing with and hurriedly dragged his still dazed son out of the mansion with him. Zachariah brushed away the goosebumps on his arm and hurried forth. You are. Nash leaped into the air and entered Scotty's room again by jumping through her window. You were so cool, Nash. I have no doubts you'd make a great smiling Grim Reaper. Justin had been hiding behind the curtains and had witnessed everything that happened. He smiled sheepishly while giving Nash a thumbs up. Anyone can become the smiling Grim Reaper when they wear the costume. Didn't the Watsons treat you like the smiling Grim Reaper when you visited them last night? Nash asked as he took off the mask, a smile on his face. The smiling Grim Reaper had made a name for himself, which is why anyone could create a sense of oppression just by donning the costume. Scotty leaned against her bed's headboard and smiled. You know, you really do look the part when you're wearing that costume. Nash's height and build were similar to the actual smiling Grim Reaper's. Moreover, because he had mastered the profound reality realm, there was a natural air of confidence about him. It was something Justin could not imitate. Nash returned the outfit to Justin and gently reminded him, don't wear these too much. They may bring you honor and respect, but they'll also put you in danger. The smiling Grim Reaper had plenty of enemies. If one did not have the skills to back themselves up, they could easily get themselves in trouble if they donned this outfit. Got it, Nash? Justin nodded and folded the clothes before leaving Scotty's room. He opened the door and nearly bumped into Bianca, who was holding a medicine bowl. Thankfully, Bianca had quick reflexes, and she successfully dodged aside and did not drop the bowl. So sorry, Bianca. Justin hurriedly apologized. No worries. Bianca responded half-heartedly before entering the room. A disgruntled look appeared on Scotty's face. Didn't I just drink this in the morning? Why do I have to take more medicine now? She had drunk no less than 10 bowls of medicine since yesterday. That's a question you'll have to ask your coach, Bianca replied, a smile forming on her red lips. How much longer do I need to drink all this medicine, Nash? Scotty asked as she turned to look at Nash. Another 3 days. Oh, God. You guys should just kill me. A look of despair appeared on Scotty's face, but she obediently picked up the bowl and held her nose as she chugged its contents. She had to get better soon so her grandfather and Marshall brothers could stop worrying. At the Chateau Hotel, Olivia welcomed Walter Watson, the richest man in the country. Walter sat at the dining table, smiling slightly as he asked, I'm sure you know what happened to the Lane family's patriarch last night, right? Chapter 254. Olivia responded tacitly. The Lane family? What happened? Of course, she knew. In fact, she had even assisted Nash. Walter's motives were unknown, and she had to tread with caution. Walter retrieved a file from his briefcase which he had placed on the chair next to his. This document is the development rights to Wallace District. I outbid your father for this land because of how much I liked it back in the day. Olivia's gaze immediately turned toward the document in Walter's hands. Wallace District. Her grandparents had lived there for almost 30 years. After her grandfather retired, her father had wanted to use his development rights to Wallace District to build him a mansion where he could comfortably enjoy his retirement. However, Walter had bought off the development rights for $3 billion. Given her grandfather's rapidly declining health, Nash had stated he would only live for another 2 years. Both her father and grandfather would be delighted if she got her hands on the development rights for Wallace District. The development rights and the deed for Wallace District are worth over $6 billion. You wouldn't give them away for nothing, would you, Mr. Watson? Olivia was the CEO of Drake Group and had been exposed to plenty thanks to the time she had spent working with Theo. She easily calmed the excited look in her eyes. Mr. Lee and I have known each other for 30 years. Our friendship cannot be defined by merely a development project, Walter responded, with a sincere look on his face. I'm not a young girl anymore, Mr. Watson. Please stop beating around the bush, or I wouldn't dare agree to work on this project, Olivia responded, a smile on her face. I just wanted to get your clarification on something. Was Nash Calcraft tending to Mr. Lee at the Chateau Hotel last night? Walter asked in a low voice. Olivia did not hesitate as she replied. Yes, that's right. Mr. Calcraft spent the entire night at the Chateau Hotel. Last night, Nash had told her there would be people asking about his whereabouts. Sure enough, they were turning up today. She had thought it would be men from the Lane family or the Green Bamboo Association. Walter had not been on her list of potential visitors. However, no matter who it was, she would not expose Nash's secrets. Olivia's prompt reply aroused Walter's suspicion. The girl was not curious about why he was asking about Nash. It seemed as if she were ready to answer his question, as if it had been rehearsed beforehand. Don't worry. I have nothing to do with the Lane family or the Green Bamboo Association. I'm here because of my good-for-nothing grandson. I'm sure you know what happened between Kai and Helena. Helena and Hira aren't on good terms, and the two are locked in constant strife. My son is deeply in love with the Lewis family's daughter and has gotten involved in the issues between them. I thought they were catty fights and had never expected things to become so serious. Tears flowed down Walter's face. He also talked about how his son had given Simon $4 billion. Olivia's brows furrowed together, but she did not say anything. It seemed that Walter truly was not in cahoots with Simon and the rest. She also knew of Kai and Helena's romance. Kai's flamboyant personality was what had caused this irreparable damage. Kai's mother was raised in a rural part of the country, and my vehement objection toward her marrying my son was what caused them to lose their lives. I've been doing my best to make it up to Kai all these years, but I've still failed to erase the hatred he harbors toward me. Now, Kai has enraged Nash. As his grandfather, I can't just stand by and watch. Tears flowed down Walter's face, and he knelt before Olivia. Olivia, your grandfather and I have been friends for decades. Please help us. Olivia hurriedly helped Walter stand up again. Mr. Watson, you don't have to do that. Walter wiped his tears away. Nash can punish Kai any way he wishes to. I just want him to spare Kai's life. A hesitant look appeared on Olivia's face as waves of confusing emotions washed over her. Though her grandfather and Watson had not gone through major life events together, they had indeed known each other for over 30 years. The Lee family had been an unassuming family with little power to speak of before she married Theo. The Watson family had given the Lee family many opportunities to collaborate with other businesses. I'll ask Nash for his opinion. Olivia sighed. Grateful tears rolled down Walter's cheeks. Thank you. Thank you. He was the richest man in the country, but here he was, bowing and groveling to a younger generation. Chapter 255. All this was for the sake of his beloved grandson. Olivia approached her bodyguard and whispered, "Send the surveillance footage to Nash." The bodyguard immediately left to take care of things. Around half an hour later, Nash phoned Olivia and said coolly, "I've been informed about what's happened. I'll give Kai Watson one more chance. If he insists on making his death wish come true, not even God can save him." He hung up before Olivia had the chance to reply. If Walter had not come to give him an honest account, he would not have known what happened either. Since he was confessing to his wrongdoings, he would not treat him as harshly as he did to those who never confessed. Walter had even gone to Olivia for help, hence he decided to give them another chance. It would also help Olivia get the chance to honor Mr. Lee. Moreover, Kai was Helena's boyfriend. Helena was part of the Lewis family. Mr. Lee had saved his life in the past, and he worried Mr. Lee would not rest easy in heaven if Helena died. Olivia had put her phone on speaker mode just now. Walter was so grateful he began sobbing again when he heard Nash's answer. Olivia, thank you. Please help me thank Nash as well. I will be much stricter with Kai from today onwards. Walter bowed to Olivia and handed her the development rights to Wallace District. There's something I always wanted to know, Mr. Watson. Does your grandson truly have feelings for Helena? Olivia accepted the documents without any hesitation as she asked him that question. Walter hesitated momentarily before replying, I usually don't poke my business into what's going on between him and Helena, but Kai has never brought his girlfriends back home with him. Helena is the first girl he brought home. Royal Bay. A drunken Kai sat in Helena's car. Fuck you, Nash Calcraft. I'm going to kill you. Kai's words slurred together as he spoke with anger. Helena had a pained look on her face as she helped Kai walk toward the mansion. When they arrived at the entrance, they saw several bodyguards changing the locks. What are you doing? Helena roared at them. The bodyguards ignored Helena and continued working on the task at hand. You jerks, are you deaf? I'm asking you a question. Helena helped Kai make their way over to them. She reached a hand out to grab the guard's hand. The guard shoved Helena aside and said calmly, This building is now seized and will remain sealed for the next 3 years. Royal Bay had a unique rule. Homeowners could request for the property they owned to become sealed. Once frozen, no one could unseal them during the predetermined period, including the homeowners themselves. A shocked look appeared on Helena's face. Who did this? Mr. Walter, of course. The guard looked at Helena gleefully. Her attitude had always been harsh and unkind, and held grudges against anyone or anything she saw. All she had done was clamber her way into Kai Watson's sheets. Since Walter had seized Kai's mansion, it was obvious he planned to discipline his grandson. Life was going to become terrible for them. Impossible, impossible. Kai has always been Mr. Watson's favorite. There's no way he would have seized Kai's mansion. Hurry up and open the door, or I'll call the police. Chapter 256. Helena raised her voice in anger. She was simply in disbelief that Walter had frozen Kai's villa. Without the villa in Royal Bay, how could she compete with Hira? Oh my, you scared me to death. Then you'd better call the police. If you don't know how to, I can help you out. The security guard cheerfully pulled out his phone. Helena noticed that the way the security guards looked at her had changed. Only then did she realize that they had truly lost a villa in Royal Bay. The phone in her pocket kept ringing with message notifications. Helena quickly pulled out her phone to check the messages. They were all notifications about bank cards being frozen. These 3 cards were akin to the little savings Kai had stored with her, holding about $150 million in assets. Helena felt as though she had been struck by lightning. Her mind went blank. She widened her eyes in disbelief. What? What on earth is going on? Kai's phone rang too. While supporting him with one hand, Helena took out Kai's phone with the other. The messages were also from the banks. His bank accounts had been frozen. Helena turned pale, looking like she had lost her soul. The next second, Kai's phone started to ring. It was Queenie calling. With trembling hands, Helena answered the call. Kai, Grandpa froze all the assets in your name. My parents took my measly savings and sent me to live in a school dormitory. They'll only give me $3,000 a month as allowance. Queenie sobbed uncontrollably. This matter had nothing to do with her. However, she ended up suffering because of it. She felt extremely wronged. Queenie, it's me. Kai drank a little too much. Helena, holding back her shock, asked in a trembling voice, Why did your grandfather do this? Because of Nash. At the Zabel's villa, Nash received a call from Hira. Nash, my uncle's daughter will be arriving at Johnford Airport soon. Both my parents and I are unavailable. Can you pick her up? All right. I'll head there now. Love you, Hira said happily. After hanging up, Nash stood up and headed outside. Zeno immediately followed. As soon as they got into the car, Lauren called Nash again. Mom, Nash called out. Nashie, my niece has just arrived in Johnford. I was hoping you could pick her up for me. Lauren's tone sounded a bit awkward. She was worried about troubling Nash. She had thought of arranging someone from the company to pick her niece up but was afraid her niece would be upset if a stranger came. So, a family member had to go. Hira already told me. I'm on my way. But what's your niece's name? What does she look like? Nash asked with a smile. Well, Lauren hesitated, unable to answer. She had little contact with her family after being forced out. This niece was her third brother Lincoln's daughter. When she left the family, Lincoln had just gotten married. I'll ask my second brother Liam. Lauren dialed Liam, who was a senior executive at Drake Group, using the landline. Surprisingly, even Liam did not have a photo of their niece. Can you contact Lincoln then? Chapter 257. I can't contact him. He went abroad 10 years ago and hasn't been in touch with us since then. However, he occasionally sends letters to Mom. I think I remember his daughter's name being Yvonne. Okay, I got it. Liam, are you free tonight? How about having dinner at our place? Oh, will that be convenient? Liam's voice sounded a little nervous. He had probably heard about her family issues. Of course, it's convenient. After all, Lincoln's daughter is also here. Don't you want to meet your niece? All right. I'll call you after work. Lauren hung up the landline and texted Yvonne's name to Nash. Nash was in the arrival area of Johnford Airport. Zeno was holding a cardboard sign with the name Yvonne Mayer written on it in rough, crooked handwriting. Nash could not help but say, "Your handwriting's pretty good." Zeno looked a little embarrassed. "I never went to school." Having said that, he held the sign up high. They were not even sure which flight Yvonne was on. Every time a large group of passengers came out, both of them would scan the crowd. Nash? Suddenly, a surprised voice sounded from not far away. Nash looked up. There was a tall woman walking toward him. She wore a fiery red leather jacket, a wide blouse underneath, and tight jeans that showcased her slender long legs. A silver necklace hung around her neck, and her refined face was hidden behind her sunglasses. Seeing the woman, a look of surprise also appeared in Nash's eyes. It was Felicity. What was she doing in Johnford? You came to pick me up, right? Did Angelica tell you? Felicity, pulling her suitcase, approached a railing with a joyful smile on her face. No, Nash did not even bother to pretend. Felicity pouted. Don't lie. Besides me, who else could make a top expert like you come to pick them up personally? Zeno shook the sign and asked, Are you Yvonne? Felicity glanced at the name on the sign, and the smile on her face froze. It seemed Nash was not there for her at all. Zeno chuckled and said, I've seen narcissistic people, but never someone as narcissistic as you. Felicity shot a glare at Zeno. Suddenly, she frowned and asked, Are you Zeno? Zeno was taken aback. You know me? Felicity sneered. Let me introduce myself. I'm the Deputy Chief of Sagan's Inspection Office, Felicity Snyder. Someone from the inspection office? Zeno felt a jolt, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Being the second in command of Dragon Tiger Gate meant he had a criminal record. Since becoming the second in command, he had been closely monitored by the inspection office. A greenhorn like you dares to claim you're the deputy chief? Do you know that impersonating an official is illegal? Felicity was just too young. Zeno did not believe her title one bit. Nash leaned in and said, I've seen her in Sagan. She's indeed the deputy chief of Sagan's inspection office. Hearing this, Zeno's face turned ashen. Nash showed a wry smile. He looked at Felicity and asked, Did you come to Johnford for a vacation? Sort of. Actually, it's mainly to investigate someone. The three juggernauts of the Green Bamboo Association and the leader of the 9th branch, Howard, are dead. I'm here to find out which outlaw did it. Felicity's gaze, hidden behind her sunglasses, was fixed intently on Nash's face, as if trying to find the answer on it. Nash responded with a subtle smile. Who do you think it was? Felicity leaned closer to Nash and slowly said, I think it was you. A faint fragrance reached Nash's nostrils. Nash grinned and said, You can investigate all you want then. Felicity responded disdainfully. Just you wait and see. I only need half a day to find out. Felicity. At that moment, Angelica, who was dressed casually, squeezed through the crowd. I have to go now. I'll come by to see you tomorrow. Felicity waved, pulling her suitcase toward Angelica. Chapter 258. Felicity, Who were you talking to just now? Angelica looked toward Nash and Zeno with curiosity. There were too many people around, so she could not see their faces. Thinking about the embarrassing thing she did earlier, Felicity's face turned red. Let's not mention it. It was so awkward. After exchanging a few pleasantries, the two left the airport. Nash and Zeno continued to wait for Yvonne. They waited for 3 full hours, but she did not show up. Mr. Nash, should we ask Mr. Sky to check the airline ticket information? Perhaps something came up and Miss Mare didn't board the plane? Zeno suggested as he took out his phone, prepared to make a call. Nash nodded and reluctantly said, "That seems to be the only option." Just then, another large wave of passengers emerged. Among them, a girl in a light pink princess dress was looking around curiously. Beside her was a middle-aged man with a square face and a goatee. He pulled along a pink suitcase and a black one. The girl wore pigtails, walked with a sway, and was holding a Winnie the Pooh toy in her arms. "Uncle James, will Aunt Lauren come to pick us up?" The girl looked at the man beside her. Her pretty face was brimming with expectation. "Of course. Your aunt and your father were the most mischievous when they were young. They were extremely close." Right after he said this, he saw a sign in the distance with Yvonne's name on it. Seeing that it was two men holding the sign, James' expression instantly darkened. Zeno caught James' gaze, saw the girl next to him, and immediately raised the sign above his head. James took Yvonne and walked up to the two of them. After looking around and not seeing Lauren, he asked with displeasure, "Where's Lauren? Why didn't she come?" Realizing her aunt had not come to fetch her, a disappointed expression appeared on Yvonne's small face. Noticing James' dissatisfaction, Nash simply said, "Mom's too busy to make it, so she sent me to pick up Yvonne instead." "Mom? Are you Lauren's son?" James looked at Nash suspiciously. "I'm Lauren's son-in-law, Nash." Nash introduced himself. "Here is married." James' face showed subtle changes. "Yes, we're married," Nash said, showing off his wedding ring with a faint smile on his face. James stood there in a daze. After a moment, he said, "Take us to the Lewis household first." As Zeno stepped forward to help with the luggage, James said flatly, "No need. I can manage." Zeno gave a rueful smile and then crumpled up the sign with Yvonne's name on it, tossing it into a nearby trash can. "So, if you're my cousin here as husband, should I just call you Nash?" Yvonne turned to Nash and asked. "That depends on you," Nash replied with a slight smile. "Well, I'm in a good mood. How did you meet my cousin?" "That's a long story. You can ask your cousin when we get home," Nash said, unsure how to explain the complicated relationship. Certainly, he could not just say he had a marriage contract with Helena, who did not agree with the marriage, so Hera was forced to marry him instead, right? In front of the mayors, he had to protect Hera's reputation. An hour later, Zeno drove into Royal Bay. As they passed Kai's villa, Zeno said with a laugh, "Walter really took drastic measures this time, even taking back Kai's villa." Zeno knew how much Walter had dotted on Kai. No matter how tough Walter is, he's still Kai's grandfather. If someone else were to deal with him, Kai would be in danger. Chapter 259. The someone else Nash referred to was none other than himself. Had it not been for Olivia's sake, Kai would have suffered. In the back seat, James looked somewhat startled. "Isn't this the Royal Bay? Do you live here?" The villas in Royal Bay were among the top-tier luxurious residences in the country. The price for one was at least 50 million. Even with money, it might not be available for purchase. How could a small family like the Lewises afford to buy a villa in such a place? "Who are you looking down on here?" Zeno muttered quietly. Mr. Nash was a privileged client of the Sky family. The platinum membership card he held could purchase 10 houses in Royal Bay alone. Once the car came to a stop, Nash got out and opened the doors for the two of them. Zeno, on the other hand, took out the luggage from the trunk. James quickly snatched a suitcase from Zeno, saying flatly, "I can handle it myself." Zeno felt a bit frustrated inwardly. After all, he was the second in command of Dragon Tiger Gate with hundreds of men under him. Many wealthy family heads had to be courteous in front of him, yet this guy had no clue how good he had it. Even so, Zeno could not get angry in front of Nash. "Zeno, you should head back to the Zables. Call me if anything happens. Noticing Zeno's displeasure, Nash looked for an excuse to send him away. Zeno thought that Nash was upset and quickly said, Mr. Nash, I don't mean anything by it. The Green Bamboo Association's people are still in Johnford. They might target the Zables at any moment. I'd feel better if you're there guarding them. Nash interrupted with a smile. All right, Mr. Nash. Zeno sighed in relief. He got into the car, shifted gears, and pressed the accelerator. After a perfect drift, he sped away. Meanwhile, James and Yvonne had reached the front of the villa. The villa was decorated in a simple European style, with top-notch brands for all materials and furnishings. The place looked elegant yet luxurious. What a beautiful house! It's much more beautiful than our house abroad. Yvonne marveled while holding her Winnie the Pooh plush toy. The seaside villa she lived in abroad was less than half the size of this house. Uncle James, Yvonne, don't just stand there, come inside. Nash received the two guests with a smile. James still wore a stern expression, as if someone owed him a huge debt. Thank you, Nash. Yvonne thanked him shyly. Both of them followed Nash into the house. Seeing guests arriving, Maria immediately prepared tea. Sitting on the spacious sofa, Yvonne removed her shoes and socks before crossing her legs. With a pitiful face, she said to James, Uncle James, I'm hungry. She had not eaten or drunk anything since morning. She was already starving on the plane. James' stern face softened slightly. Hold on a bit longer. Your Aunt Lauren will be back soon. You must be both tired and hungry from the journey. I'll ask Maria to prepare something for you to eat. Nash, who grew up alone without relatives, was a bit nervous hosting his mother-in-law's family. No need, Nash. I need to save space for a feast tonight, Yvonne replied obediently. In the park outside the villa, there was a tall man in a suit wearing a pair of sunglasses. He touched a Bluetooth earpiece and whispered, They've arrived at Johnford and have settled in the Royal Bay Villa. A chilling voice came from the other end. Find an opportunity to get the test item, then eliminate them. Yes, sir, the man replied respectfully. Who are you? What are you doing here? Hira had just parked her car when she noticed a suspicious man in the park outside. This place was a private park for the villas here. Outsiders were not allowed without permission. Chapter 260. I came here to visit my relatives, but this place is so big that I got lost. Could you tell me where Villa number 9 is? The man in the suit took off his sunglasses, revealing sharp, hawk-like eyes. Hira found herself breathless under his icy gaze. Outside of department officials, outsiders needed homeowner authorization to enter Royal Bay. If this man was visiting relatives, he would have surely notified them in advance for authorization. Furthermore, Villa number 9 was located in the most conspicuous row within Royal Bay. There were clear signs pointing to villas 1 to 9 right at the entrance. It was impossible for him not to know where Villa number 9 was. Therefore, she concluded that this man did not enter through the main gate. Hira, why did you come to the park? Following Hira's gaze, Nash tried to find what caught her attention, but he saw nothing around. The sudden voice startled Hira. Turning around, she saw Nash and patted her chest while exclaiming, How do you walk without making any noise? You scared me. You were just too engrossed in your thoughts just now and didn't hear me, Nash explained with a smile. Have Yvonne and Uncle James arrived? Hira inquired. They've arrived. They're resting at home now. Hand in hand, the two headed toward the villa. Hira recounted her earlier encounter with the lost man in the suit to Nash and expressed her suspicions. That man is definitely suspicious. Do you think he could be one of the assassins sent for us? As Hira spoke, anxiety filled her heart, causing her grip on Nash's arm to tighten slightly. First, she was kidnapped alongside Scotty, and then the Lewis family estate was bombed. Afterward, Scotty and Bianca were even targeted by the Green Bamboo Association. As the person was acting suspiciously earlier, it was hard for her not to assume the worst. Nash hugged Hira into his arms and said gently, You might be a bit sensitive due to recent events. Don't worry too much. I'm here with you. Judging by Hira's description, that man was indeed questionable. Even so, in order to keep Hira from worrying, Nash could only offer gentle reassurance. Nash's embrace was warm and comforting, alleviating some of Hira's anxiety. Hira, at some point, Yvonne appeared at the villa's entrance. Hera swiftly withdrew from Nash's embrace and turned around with a bright smile. "You must be Yvonne. You're so beautiful." Yvonne stepped forward and hugged Hera. "Not as beautiful as you, Hera." After a brief embrace, the two cheerfully walked arm in arm into the villa's living room, with Nash following closely behind. Upon seeing James seated on the sofa, Hera sweetly asked, "You must be Uncle James, right?" A forced smile appeared on James' usually cold face. I never thought you'd be married by now." Hera blushed. "I'm not that young anymore. Some of my college friends are already expecting their second child." Nash sensed James seemed to have reservations about Hera's marriage. This James guy was quite familiar with the Mares. Did he want Hera to marry into his own lineage? "What do you do for a living, boy?" James suddenly inquired. Yvonne's curious eyes were also fixed on Nash as she wondered about the man who had won over her beautiful cousin. "He must be extremely excellent, no?" Hera looked at Nash hesitantly, unsure how to answer Uncle James' question. On paper, Nash worked as a security manager at her company. In reality, Nash rarely visited the office and did not have a formal job. "I'm the security manager for Baroque's branch company," Nash replied without hesitation. "He's just nominally working in my company. In reality, he's a miracle doctor with extraordinary medical skills," Hera added. In the eyes of ordinary people, being a security manager would be considered a senior position. However, in the eyes of large families, it simply was not impressive. "Security manager? At Baroque, to boot?" Disdain appeared in James' eyes. Chapter 261. According to what Hera had said, this guy was not even a security manager before. It was only after marrying Hera that he had the opportunity to become one. "Uncle James, being a security manager is impressive. It's just like your position." Yvonne, noticing Uncle James' displeasure with her cousin-in-law, quickly spoke up in Nash's defense. "How could he compare to me? Our company is a legitimate security firm. Any random team leader there makes a monthly salary of $20,000, and I mean in myriad dollars." James glanced at Nash coldly and arrogantly. When converted into draconian dollars, it would be equivalent to nearly $200,000 in monthly salary. As a manager himself, James earned close to $1 million monthly. How could he compare to a security manager from a smaller firm like Baroque? Yvonne stuck out her tongue, then whispered next to Hera, "Uncle James is amazing. He has protected people from the royal family before. His starting commission is $500,000 myriad dollars." "That much?" Hera was dumbfounded. $500,000 myriad dollars would equal over $3 million draconian dollars. In the past, Baroque would have to spend years to earn that amount. 500,000? That's not even enough for the reservation fee for many country leaders who have sought my services," Nash murmured to himself. During his missions abroad back in the day, there were at least over 30 royal families lined up, seeking his protection. Just the appointment fee to see him was between 100,000 to 800,000 myriad dollars. "You're just too young. With limited social experience, you were easily deceived by a few sweet words," James lamented, casting a cold glance at Nash. "Uncle James, please don't misunderstand. I'm the one who insisted on marrying Nash," Hera explained with a smile. Hearing this, James was taken aback. Why did she insist on marrying him? With her looks, she could have easily married into one of the top elite families in Capitan. "Wow, Hera, tell me why you insisted on marrying him. Was it for love?" Yvonne, worried about her straightforward Uncle James continuing his tirade against her cousin-in-law, quickly changed the subject. At that moment, Harrison and Lauren entered the room. "Yvonne?" Lauren walked toward Lincoln's daughter with a look of excitement on her face. "Are you Aunt Lauren?" Yvonne, having never met Lauren, asked cautiously. Hera nodded gently. "Yes, she's your Aunt Lauren." Hearing this, Yvonne rushed forward. "Aunt Lauren, I've finally met you." The two embraced. Lauren was moved to tears. After being estranged for over 20 years, even Liam, who worked in Johnford, was reluctant to come and see her. She never thought she would see a member of the Mayer family again, let alone Lincoln's daughter. James. Harrison pulled out a pack of unopened cigarettes from his pocket. James had attended his wedding with Lauren years ago, and there had been some unpleasant incidents. However, all was forgiven over time. Remembering James' fondness for smoking, Harrison had bought this expensive pack, something he would be reluctant to buy at other times. "I quit smoking," James declined, his face reverting to its previous cold demeanor. Harrison chuckled and said, "You must have had a tough time, James. I'll have a bit more to drink with you later. Stop trying to cozy up to me." Chapter 262. James snorted coldly as if there was some deep hatred between the two of them. Harrison did not feel embarrassed and threw the cigarette in his hand to Nash. After Lauren and Yvonne hugged for a moment, Lauren remembered that James was there and quickly greeted him. "James, it's been a long time." James' icy face melted instantly. "It's been more than 20 years. So it has been a while." Yvonne rubbed her stomach and said coquettishly, "Hira, I'm so hungry." Hira smiled. "If you're hungry, let's go eat." She really liked her obedient and cute little cousin. Harrison suggested, "Let's eat out. It's probably too late for anyone to start cooking now." He started to take out his phone to book a restaurant. Then, Nash smiled and said, "I've reserved a private room at the Chateau Hotel. Let's eat there." After all, these were his mother-in-law's relatives. He needed to build a favorable impression for his mother-in-law. "The Chateau Hotel?" James was taken aback for a moment, then remarked, "It seems the Lewises have done quite well these past years." Having grown up in Capitan, he knew the standard of people who dined at the Chateau Hotel. Actually, Harrison wanted to explain that the membership card belonged to Nash. "We should get going. Yvonne is already hungry. So let's hurry over," Nash interrupted Harrison. Harrison understood that Nash was trying to protect their dignity. With such a son-in-law, what more could one ask for? The entire family headed toward the Chateau Hotel. James and Yvonne took Lauren's car. Meanwhile, Nash and Harrison went in Hira's car, with Nash driving. When the two cars drove outside the villa, Lauren went over to get her second brother, Liam Mayer. Then, all three cars drove to the Chateau Hotel together. "Dad, who exactly is Uncle James? He's quite rude." Recalling Uncle James' words, Hira expressed her displeasure. "It's a long story. When your grandfather was young and starting his business, he faced several assassination attempts. Fortunately, he escaped each time. Once, his car was hanging on the edge of the cliff, and his dedicated driver jumped off to lighten the car's weight, saving your grandfather's life. That driver was James' father. He divorced when James was young, so after the accident, James was left alone. Hence, your grandfather took him in as his adoptive son. Your grandfather had 3 sons and 2 daughters. Your mother is the 4th child. The youngest child died of leukemia. James wasn't academically strong, and he didn't want to live a mediocre life in the Mayer household, so your grandfather spent a lot of money to train him. After James returned from his training, your mother was about to marry me. Your grandfather asked him to bring her back, so he came to Johnford and caused a scene at our wedding. When he found out your mother was pregnant, he drank a lot and later took advantage of being drunk to beat me up." Harrison reminisced with a wry smile. "So, did you fight back? Did he eventually let you guys be?" Hira had never heard the story from her parents before. She was completely engrossed and occasionally glanced at Nash through the rearview mirror. Nash was focused on driving, but he was probably eavesdropping. At that time, our entire family's assets were less than 2 million, and the Mayers had nearly 300 million. How could we dare offend anyone from the Mayer family? Your mother slapped him to bring him to his senses. After he gave his blessings, he left. At that time, James was a martial arts grandmaster. If he had insisted on taking your mother, we wouldn't have had a choice. You probably wouldn't have been born." James had a bad temper, but his father was kind to your grandfather, and he was kind to me and your mother, so whatever he says, you and Nash shouldn't take it to heart. While they talked, the car arrived at the Chateau Hotel. After Liam got out of the car, he greeted James and Yvonne. Then, he greeted Harrison and Hira. Chapter 263. Hira shyly said, "Hello, Uncle Liam." Liam had always been in Johnford, but she had never met him before. If this got out, people would probably laugh their heads off. However, she greatly admired her mother's character for choosing love over familial ties. In business families, marriages were often seen as crucial alliances, ideally between equally powerful families. On one hand, it was about forming a stronger business empire. On the other, it was about ensuring the combination of exceptional genes to produce even more outstanding descendants. They believed this was an essential factor in maintaining the longevity of the family's power and wealth. As expected of Lauren's daughter, words like "your beauty puts Aphrodite to shame" can't even begin to describe you, Liam said, feeling guilty deep down but not showing it on his face. Uncle Liam, you're so good at compliments. Why don't you ever compliment me? Yvonne pouted and approached, seemingly wanting to compete for attention with Hira. Liam laughed heartily. My Yvonne is also beautiful. The mare's genes are definitely top-notch. That's more like it. Yvonne instantly beamed. Liam then turned to Nash, extending his hand and saying, Mr. Calcraft, hello. I've heard so much about you. He had some knowledge of recent events happening in the Lewis household. First, the CEO personally returned from abroad to sign a $3 billion agreement with the Lewises. Then, Broke obtained a 7nm lithography machine. The Lewises could not possibly have the capability for that. Even the boyfriend of the Lewises' eldest, Helena, was not qualified to have their CEO return to the country in person. The only plausible reason for all this was Nash, who was also his niece's boyfriend. Nash warmly shook Liam's hand and said with a smile, Uncle Liam, there's no need for formalities. Just call me Nash. Respecting elders, especially those of one's partner, was a sign of good manners. See, Uncle James, look at how polite Uncle Liam is to Nash. Yvonne seemed to still harbor some resentment over James' previous behavior. James pouted and said, Your second uncle has an even worse temper than mine. He even wanted to have your uncle-in-law killed. Liam, having graduated from a prestigious university and having studied abroad, obviously had manners and grace that James, a martial artist, could not compare to. Back when they opposed Lauren's marriage to Harrison, Liam had provided plenty of ideas of his own. However, James was puzzled. The guy had also not seen Lauren for more than 20 years, which clearly showed he refused to let go of Lauren's past conflict with the Mares. Why was Liam being so polite to Lauren's son-in-law now? Lauren walked over with a smile and said, Let's chat while eating. Nash led the way. Meanwhile, Olivia and the lobby manager came out to greet them. Upon seeing Nash, Olivia immediately greeted with a smile. Nah. However, she stopped mid-word when Nash shot her a warning look. Seeing Lauren and Harrison accompanied by two middle-aged individuals and noting the resemblance between one of them and Lauren, she realized, was that not their company's business director, Liam Mayer? Liam Mayer? Lauren Mayer? Could they be brother and sister? It turned out that today's event was for Lauren to host her relatives. Nash wanted her to prioritize Lauren and her guests. Collecting herself, Olivia gestured to Harrison, Mr. Lewis, your private room is ready, and dishes can be served at any time. Harrison glanced gratefully at Nash. Liam was a high-ranking executive of Drake Group, and Olivia was its CEO. The respectful treatment he received from Olivia indirectly elevated his status in Liam's eyes, all thanks to Nash being there. Harrison replied with a slight smile, Thank you, Miss Olivia. Chapter 264. They were just having a casual dinner, so Nash only reserved a diamond private room. Even so, the diamond private room at the Chateau Hotel was about 200 square meters. Holding her Winnie the Pooh, Yvonne exclaimed again, Such a big room, such a big table. I've never dined in such a luxurious hotel before. She then turned to Hira, asking curiously, Hira, do you often dine here? Hira replied with a smile, I've only dined here once. This time, it's all thanks to you that I get to eat here again. Hee, Hira. You sure have a way with words. Yvonne giggled amusedly. Soon after, the waiter started serving dishes. In order to avoid waste, Nash instructed Olivia to prepare portions for only 8 people. There were 18 signature dishes plus 3 soups. An ordinary banquet would look pretty much like this. However, These dishes were beyond what one would expect at a regular banquet. In Royal Bay Villa, Maria sat on a bench at the entrance of the villa, eating snacks while video calling her son. Adam was typing away when his pupils suddenly shrank. Seeing the drastic change in her son's expression, Maria curiously asked, "What's wrong, son?" Adam signaled her to be quiet. Maria immediately sensed something and slowly turned to look into the villa's living room. She saw a man in a suit rummaging through Yvonne's luggage. In a low voice, Adam said, "Mom, don't make a sound. Get out of the villa first." Seemingly not hearing him, Maria shouted, "Thief! Catch the thief!" "Darn it!" Adam's face turned pale, and he quickly called Hira using the landline. A sudden breaking sound echoed from outside the villa. Zeno, accompanied by a muscular man, rushed toward the scene. Having met Zeno before, the frantic Maria yelled, "Quick! Catch the thief!" Zeno immediately pulled out a gun with a silencer and aimed it at the suited man. 3 consecutive shots, but they all missed. The muscular man sneered. "What awful shooting skills." He then walked briskly toward the villa, saying menacingly, "Little brat, you dare to steal from Mr. Nash? Logan, come back!" Zeno shouted loudly. He started using guns 20 years ago and had been practicing shooting in recent years. He could hit any target within 100 meters with every shot. However, just now, he actually missed all his shots. It was as if an invisible barrier around the man had altered the bullet's trajectory. Logan reached out to grab the man in the suit. "Found it!" The suited man picked up a fist-sized box. At the same time, Logan's hand was on his neck. The man in the suit suddenly stood up, and a terrifying force sent Logan flying. Seeing this, Zeno raised his hand and fired 3 more shots. With a swift motion, the suited man caught all 3 bullets in his hand. Catching bullets with bare hands, Zeno gasped in disbelief. Chapter 265. This was a martial artist, and one above the level of a grandmaster. The man in the suit glanced at the group coldly and said in a chilling voice, "I'm in a good mood today. I don't want to kill anyone." After saying that, he vanished like a shadow, leaving the villa. Not long after he left, a patrol car pulled up at the entrance. Felicity and Angelica stepped out of the car. Zeno was somewhat taken aback. Were the police always this swift? Felicity approached and asked, "Where is Yvonne Mare?" "They went out to eat," Zeno replied, then quickly added, "A thief just ran out of the villa. You need to chase after him." Angelica frowned. "A thief? In Royal Bay?" Felicity glanced at the unconscious Logan on the ground. His tongue stuck out and his eyes rolled back. She said slowly, "He's not just any thief. He came for Yvonne." Angelica turned pale. "Did they manage to take anything?" "Just an hour ago, a message from the National Security Department was sent out. 2 people named Yvonne Mare and James Jude brought back a type of bacteria from abroad. It was capable of effectively killing HIV strains. Once foreign biolabs caught wind of this, they immediately dispatched all their undercover agents in Draconia. The security department issued a directive. They had to find Yvonne and retrieve the bacteria before the foreign agents could. Upon receiving the order, Felicity immediately brought Angelica to Nash's place. However, it seemed they were a step too late. With a frustrated expression, Felicity asked, "Did the thief take anything?" She still held a sliver of hope. Perhaps the thief did not find the bacteria. "He took a box from Miss Mare's luggage," he exclaimed. "Found it." Maria, still shaken from the ordeal, spoke with a quivering voice. Felicity frowned, saying, "Looks like they still beat us to it." Saying this, she took out her phone to report to the security department. "No matter what, you have to locate that agent and retrieve the bacteria." A stern order came from the other end of the line. "Yes, sir." Felicity stood at attention and replied. After hanging up, she began contacting her colleagues in the security department. Meanwhile, Nash and the others were rushing toward Royal Bay. "Hira, drive faster," James urged anxiously. Nash, having had a few drinks, did not dare drive and sat in the passenger seat. James and Yvonne were in the back. This road had a speed limit of 40. Hira gritted her teeth and floored the accelerator. The speed climbed from 40 to 100. Yvonne clutched her Winnie the Pooh plushie, whispering, "We don't really need to rush." James remarked, "If that item falls into the wrong person's hands, The consequences will be unimaginable. Uncle James, what exactly is that thing? Hira was curious. Uncle James grew up in Capitan with a big family, had martial arts training since childhood, and was also a manager of a foreign security company. He had even seen many foreign royals. Whatever made him panic must be significant. Your Uncle Lincoln is an explorer and a biologist. 5 years ago, he discovered a type of bacteria in a frigid region of the Malaga Empire, and he named it FS microbacteria. FS has strong reproductive and adaptive abilities. After years of research by your Uncle Lincoln, he found that FS has a potent effect against the HIV virus. After clinical trials, it has been confirmed that FS can completely clear HIV virus cells. However, FS has a downside. When combined with certain infectious viruses, it can amplify their infectiousness and lethality tenfold. FS is a double-edged sword, useful for treating severe HIV cases but also a potential bioweapon. The Malaga Empire lab intended to use it both ways, as a remedy for HIV and as a bioweapon. Your third uncle strongly opposed this, but he was ostracized by the lab and eventually detained. I sneaked into the lab to rescue him, but the security was stringent. In a dire situation, a friend of uncle helped me locate him. Your third uncle told me that the lab has the offspring cells of FS, but the mother cells are hidden inside a crystal ball in your room. Chapter 266. After James was done with the explanation, Yvonne's eyes widened. Tears welled up in her eyes as she asked anxiously, Then what about my dad? Your father possesses a lot of biotechnologies and also has 5 years of experience in FS microbacteria research and cultivation. Even the political circles of the Malaga Empire won't dare to harm him easily, James whispered reassuringly. Then is there still a chance for my dad to return to Draconia? Yvonne continued to ask. There's a chance, but it's tough. Dad, tears flowed down Yvonne's cheeks. Yvonne, did you put that crystal ball in your suitcase? James asked solemnly. The crystal ball is inside my Winnie the Pooh. Yvonne's shoulders twitched as she clutched her Winnie the Pooh stuffed animal tightly. It was a gift from her father for her 16th birthday. Later, her father gave her another crystal ball and told her it was very important and that she should never lose it. She racked her brain wondering how to store this crystal ball. Finally, she came up with an idea and got someone in her class, a descendant of an artist who specialized in taxidermy, to turn the crystal ball into Winnie the Pooh's eye. Yvonne pointed to the left eye of Winnie the Pooh and said, This is the crystal ball my father gave me. Both eyes of the Winnie the Pooh looked identical, but one was remade using the crystal ball. She did not know the secret of this crystal ball. Just now, her cousin Hira mentioned someone had taken a box from her luggage at Royal Bay. Only then did she realize the magnitude of the crystal ball's secret. Now, after Uncle James' explanation, she was even more aware of the importance of the crystal ball. James looked pleased. So, FS microbacteria is still with us? Yvonne, wiping away her tears, said with a smile, Yes. Am I smart or what? James praised her sincerely. You're brilliant as your father. Nash, who sat in the passenger seat, finally relaxed and chuckled. Didn't someone take a box from your luggage? As a secret agent dispatched from abroad, doesn't he know what he's looking for? Or is there another crystal ball in that box? Yvonne nodded vigorously. Yes, there's an identical crystal ball in that box, and it also contains a type of bacteria. In a dimly lit hotel room, a man in a suit took out the small box he had stolen. Upon opening the box, there was a clear crystal ball inside. At the center of the crystal ball was a tiny speck the size of gravel. The man pulled a suitcase out from under the bed, taking out some test tubes and petri dishes for experimentation. Then, he took out a small microscope and a laptop from the suitcase. After connecting the microscope to the laptop, he crushed a crystal ball with tweezers and shook out the tiny speck into a petri dish. After magnifying it hundreds of times with the microscope, a large number of bacteria could be seen moving. A sinister smile curled up at the corner of the man's mouth. He took a photo of the laptop screen with his phone and sent it. Immediately, he went to the window and made a phone call. I have the item. Have the money ready. said the man in a suit nonchalantly. "You idiot. That's dysentery bacteria." There was a roar on the other end of the phone. The man in the suit was stunned. Dysentery bacteria. What's that? Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. The man in the suit felt a little bloated in his stomach, as if something was about to burst from his intestines. He dropped his phone and ran to the bathroom. Chapter 267. Nash and the others had returned to the Royal Bay Villa. At this moment, the outside of the villa was filled with black sedans, as well as several luxury cars worth millions. More than 30 individuals dressed in various outfits stood outside the villa. They were all martial artists of the Grand Master level or above. These were all the undercover staff from the Special Security Institution stationed in Johnford. Among them, a middle-aged man wearing a suit had a badge pinned to his right chest. Felicity introduced, "This is Judas Deacon, the person in charge of the 9th Division of the Special Security Institution." "Hello, Mr. Deacon," Nash greeted with a smile, feeling slightly surprised deep down. The cultivation of this man had actually reached the early stages of the profound reality realm. The Special Security Institution was indeed formidable. "Mr. Calcraft, I've heard so much about you. I've wanted to meet you for a long time but never got the chance. I didn't expect to meet you under such circumstances today," Judas said, stretching out his hand to shake Nash's with a smile on his face. The Special Security Institution's intelligence-gathering capabilities were outstanding. They had already found out about the major incidents in Johnford recently and that they were all related to Nash. They had even discovered Nash's alias as the Smiling Grim Reaper. "Mr. Deacon, you flatter me. I'm just a common man," Nash responded, forcing a smile. He knew they had investigated him and did not appreciate the feeling of being looked into so thoroughly. Judas hinted, "Several murders have recently occurred in Johnford. The local law enforcement couldn't handle it, so the cases were transferred to our Special Security Institution. First, Crow was killed. Then, it was Howard and 3 juggernauts of the Green Bamboo Association, as well as over 30 martial arts grandmasters. The killer did not leave behind a single survivor. He was trying to warn Nash that they were still watching him." "Oh, I see. Then please investigate thoroughly. It would be great if you could help the Green Bamboo Association catch the killer," Nash replied with a nonchalant smile. The Green Bamboo Association was a menace, and instead of dealing with that cancerous threat, the Special Security Department was watching him instead. The two stared each other down. Judas' gaze was burning like a torch as he exuded a powerful aura all over his body. Meanwhile, Nash met his gaze without flinching. "I hope you take care of yourself," Judas warned coldly before turning to look at Yvonne. He put on a kind smile and said, "Miss Mayor, you've done a great service this time. FS has the potential to benefit humanity. It can save the lives of hundreds of thousands of HIV patients." Yvonne giggled and said, "It was discovered by my father. I only brought back the results of his research." "Your father is an extraordinary scientist, rest assured. Our government will negotiate with the Malaga Empire to bring him back in the best way possible," Judas assured solemnly. I trust the strength of our great nation, but can I obtain citizenship in Draconia?" Yvonne grew up in Malaga and needed citizenship now that she was returning home to Draconia for her studies. Judas smiled. "Of course. I'll find someone to help you process this." Yvonne's parents were both citizens of Draconia and she carried pure Draconian blood. Her father's discovery of FS could save countless lives. Such a scientist would be held in high regard in any country. Now that his daughter had returned home, the relevant departments would, of course, pave the way for her. After a while, the members of the Special Security Institution left one after another. The group finally let out a collective sigh of relief. Felicity, who had not left, approached Nash and whispered, "Oh my God, I knew it. I guessed right." Chapter 268. Despite seeing Felicity standing very close to Nash, Hera still had a happy and excited smile on her face. She immediately pulled Yvonne aside for a chat. She believed that Nash was not the type to be easily swayed by other women. However, seeing the man she loved getting close to another woman did stir a hint of jealousy in her heart. "What is it?" Do I know you that well? Nash gave Felicity an annoyed look. Ah, never mind. Never mind, hey. Felicity realized that Nash did not want his family to know, so she awkwardly smiled and stayed silent. She had boasted many times in front of her grandfather, but none of it was ever true. This time, she could genuinely brag in front of him. Liam glanced at the time and said with a smile, "Lori, James, it's getting late. I need to return to the company to handle some matters. Let's continue this another day." Lauren nodded and responded, "All right, Liam, be safe on the road." Not long after Liam left, Felicity felt a bit out of place. She soon bid her farewells and departed. James, on the other hand, began discussing Nash with Harrison. "Harry, who exactly is this Nash?" The more James saw of Nash, the more enigmatic he appeared, especially when Mr. Deacon from the Special Security Institution's 9th Division shook Nash's hand. He had noticed a hint of wariness in Judith's eyes. What kind of person could make the head of the 9th Division cautious? Oh, him. He's the son-in-law I picked up. Harrison had drunk quite a bit with James that evening, and the relationship between the two had greatly improved. Seeing James address him more warmly made Harrison quite pleased. Moreover, he wanted to leverage James' influence in the Mayer family to encourage Lauren to visit her elderly parents. So, he told James about Nash owning the Sky's Platinum membership card and how he had purchased a 7nm photolithography machine. After hearing Harrison's words, James was genuinely surprised. He had not expected Nash to have such a background. He realized that he had been putting on an intimidating front before Nash earlier, only to find out he had been making a fool of himself. The night grew darker. Maria prepared the beds for James and Yvonne and then went home after her shift. Yvonne insisted on sleeping with Hira, leaving Nash alone in his room. At 3 a.m., in the deep silence of the night, a man in a suit slowly approached the back of the villa. One of his hands was pressed against the wall while the other held his belly. Damn, when will this dysentery suffering end? Having said that, he quickly dashed to a nearby green area to relieve himself. After 3 minutes of struggling, he frantically searched his pockets to find he had not brought any tissue. Trembling, he reached out to pick some leaves. However, at that moment, a hand handed him a stack of tissues. "Thank you." The man in the suit, thinking it was someone from a neighboring bush, unconsciously thanked him. However, a second later, he realized something was amiss. There was no one around when he arrived, and he would have definitely noticed if someone had approached while he was relieving himself. "Who are you?" The man in black quickly finished up, pulled up his pants, and stood. In front of him was a man in pajamas. It was Nash. Coincidentally, Nash had gotten up in the middle of the night to use the restroom and happened to notice someone approaching the villa. He followed the man, saw him having a stomach upset, and realized he had no tissue. Nash immediately remembered the person who had tried to steal Yvonne's crystal ball. "Failed the first time and you're trying again?" Chapter 269. Nash looked at the man in the suit with a mocking smile. For a stage 6 grandmaster, his strength was decent. Even a mere covert operative had such strength. It seemed the martial artists abroad were quite strong. The man in the suit fastened his belt. Then, he immediately threw a punch at Nash. He did not care who this person was. Anyone who obstructed him from obtaining FS microbacteria must die. Nash lifted his hand and grabbed the man's fist. A deep and profound inner energy surged into his body from the arm. With his stomach's energy circulating, he instantly diverted the force to his feet. The ground was indented slightly. The pupils of the man in the suit instantly shrank as he pulled out a dagger from his belt with his left hand. Nash sidestepped, kicking the man squarely in the chest. The man flew backward, breaking a tree as thick as an arm. A profound reality realm expert. The man in the suit exclaimed in shock. Nash approached the man in a few strides, grabbed his clothes, and flung him away, throwing him over 30 meters away. When he was 2 meters from the ground, Nash, like a shadow, reached him instantly. He then delivered another seamless kick. Before he could land, the man in the suit was sent flying another 30 meters. He was a stage 6 grandmaster. Even so, he could not fight back at all. The man in the suit was utterly terrified. Seeing Nash charging at him again, he quickly knelt on the ground and pleaded, "Please stop hitting me. I can't beat you. Nash's fist stopped just a centimeter away from the man's face. However, the terrifying force from his punch caused the man's nose to snap. Are you a secret agent of the Malaga Empire? Nash asked while retracting his fist. This person was Draconian citizen. If he was truly an operative of the Malaga Empire, it would be tantamount to treason. Nash would not hesitate to kill him. Though he had done tasks for the Malaga Empire himself, those tasks were to eliminate enemies abroad. I'm not a secret agent from Malaga. I work for Captain's Royal Biotech. When I was at the airport, I encountered several operatives from Malaga, and I took them out. The man in suit hastily explained. Nash narrowed his eyes. You're not lying to me? The man in the suit raised 3 fingers, swearing, if I speak half a lie, may I meet a terrible end. In front of a profound reality realm expert, he dared not play any tricks. Nash's expression softened slightly. Get up. The man in the suit quickly got to his feet. Nash took out a cigarette given by his father-in-law, lit it, and asked, what kind of company is Royal Biotech? You don't know anything about Royal Biotech? The man looked at Nash as if he were a strange creature. Nope. Nash shook his head. Having grown up in Teely Mountain and frequently executing missions abroad, how could he? Royal Biotech is the largest anti-cancer drug and vaccine manufacturer in the country. It's the main industry of the Jackson family, one of Captain's top 10 super families. They have 80 major factories worldwide, with annual profits exceeding 40 billion. They were ranked among the world's top 100 just 3 years ago. They've had their eyes on FS microbacteria for a long time, but never had a chance to get their hands on it. When they heard that Lincoln Mayor's daughter was returning to the country, they guessed Lincoln might let his daughter bring FS microbacteria back, so they hired me to retrieve it. In order to save his life, the man spilled everything he knew. Now understanding the truth, Nash nodded. For your honesty, I'll spare your life. FS microbacteria has already been sent to Captain by the Special Security Institution overnight, so try not to get any more ideas. After speaking, Nash turned around and wanted to go back to the villa. Sir, FS microbacteria won't reach the National Laboratory, the man in the suit said suddenly. Nash immediately halted. The man continued, there are people from the Jackson family in the Special Security Institution, and not just one. The Jacksons must have received the news by now, and they'll definitely set up an ambush on the way. Chapter 270. I understand. Nash responded faintly, then quickly walked away. He returned to his room. There, he took out his phone and dialed a number. In the Jacksons' estate in Captain Lucas Jackson was sitting on the couch with an expensive cigar in hand. He was the son of the Jackson family. A group of masked men in black stood in the villa. Beside them, a masked individual sat intently gazing at a computer screen that displayed surveillance from various sections of the Cape River Expressway. Mr. Lucas, the convoy from the 9th Division is estimated to enter Captain territory in 4 hours. We must leave immediately and intercept them outside Captain. Lucas gave the order nonchalantly. Dozens of masked men swiftly turned and exited the villa. Lucas, those are agents from the Special Security Institution. Do you really want to do this? A dignified and elegant-looking lady expressed her concerns. She was Lucas' elder sister, Lana Jackson. Hearing that her younger brother had summoned the family's specially trained operatives, she had a premonition that something major was about to happen that night. Hence, she tried to dissuade him. However, Lucas was adamant about his decision. Lucas looked at Lana with darkened eyes and said softly, the loss of countless lives is necessary for every major family's rise. Moreover, we're developing a specific cure for HIV. We're saving the lives of millions of HIV patients. The National Laboratory has top talents. They can also develop the drug once they get FS microbacteria. Lana strongly opposed her family's exorbitantly priced drugs. Although the company's medications were effective, patients would often go bankrupt and accumulate massive debts. Even if they were cured, they would spend their lives tirelessly working to repay their debts. That's a woman's perspective. That's why grandfather never allowed you to get involved in company matters. Anger flashed across Lucas' stern face. He could not comprehend it. Both of them were born into the Jackson family. Both of them had the same father. Why was Lana so weak-willed? Lana sighed helplessly, got up, and slowly walked upstairs to her bedroom. 2 hours later, dawn was approaching. On the Cape River Expressway, the convoy from the 9th Division gradually halted. Judas, who had been resting, opened his eyes. Outside the window, a young man in casual attire and sunglasses approached and said, "Mr. Deacon, there's been an accident up ahead." Judas frowned and said, "Turn around and get off the highway immediately." The young man responded seriously, "If we leave the highway now, it'll delay our arrival in Capitan by at least 2 hours." Judas angrily retorted, "Don't you understand me? This is an order." "Yes, sir." The young man gulped. As he was about to get into the vehicle, he suddenly stiffened and leaned back. A bullet whizzed past him. There was no sound of a gunshot. Using all his strength, the young man shouted, "We have a situation." Instantly, all the agents from the vehicles took up their weapons. From the woods on both sides of the highway, masked men emerged, armed with advanced weapons. They aimed at the convoy and began firing. A fierce battle ensued. With a grave expression, Judas abruptly stood up, burst through the roof of the vehicle, and soared into the air. In an instant, he transformed into a ghostly figure and pounced on the masked attackers. Among the masked attackers, a formidable figure charged out. This individual was on par with Judas in terms of strength. The moment they clashed, ripples spread in all directions. Helicopters in the sky launched fire suppression to the attackers below. The masked attackers wore bulletproof vests, rendering sniper bullets ineffective. More masked attackers kept lunging out of the woods. In less than a minute, the number of masked attackers on the road surpassed 100. Members of the 9th Division started calling for backup on their radios. Calling headquarters. We've been ambushed. Requesting assistance. After an hour-long standoff, with bullets depleted, the two sides resorted to hand-to-hand combat. Chapter 271. Those in the Special Security Institution were all Stage 5 and above Grandmaster level experts. These masked individuals' power was also quite extraordinary, as they were almost all martial arts Grandmasters, with 5 of them even being grade Grandmasters. Judas punched the masked man before asking in a deep voice, "Who are you? How dare you intercept the Special Security Institution? You're merely part of the 9th Division. Not even the head office. Why should we be afraid of intercepting you?" sneered the man in reply. He drew a precision knife from behind him and slashed at Judas. The terrifying glint of the blade came slashing down as Judas sidestepped it just as quickly. A Maybach behind him exploded after being cut in half. Judas unsheathed 2 blunt-edged swords from behind him and rushed forward. The 2 figures engaged in battle again, which lasted an hour. The 9th Division was already at a disadvantage. There was a drone in the sky transmitting this scene to the Jacksons' residence. Lucas was sitting with his legs crossed as the corners of his mouth curled up slowly into an evil smile. Just then, the phone on the table rang. It was Edwin Jackson, the head of the Jackson family. Lucas lazily picked up the phone and answered the call. "Lucas, I heard you mobilized a kamikaze unit against the Special Security Institution," Edwin questioned in a tone filled with anger. "That I did, grandfather. They'll definitely bring back FS microbacteria." Lucas had a well-thought-out plan. Their company would be able to make a lot of money by developing HIV-specific medicines as long as they get their hands on FS. "You bastard! Do you know what you're doing? You're throwing the family into a pit," Edwin reprimanded. The Special Security Institution was no ordinary inspection office, nor were they like the 9 major families. They were a special security department of Draconia, and going up against them was undoubtedly a declaration of war on Draconia itself. The Jackson family might be big, but they were not yet in the position to become an enemy of Draconia. "Don't worry, grandfather. I'll have them handle it. Besides, don't we have someone backing us?" Lucas said disapprovingly while lifting a leg to cross it over the other. You're going to be the death of me." Edwin hung up the phone angrily. After that, he called several numbers consecutively for help. Back at the Cape River Expressway, the 9th Division officer was struggling in the 1-against-2 fight. Judas had also been stabbed in the chest by the masked man. He gripped the sharp blade, but the masked man pushed him back by some 10 meters. "Hand it over and I'll spare you," said the masked man coldly. Judas just gripped the blade tightly, his blood flowing from his fingers as he gritted his teeth. "Dream on." The masked man snorted coldly and abruptly pushed harder, pushing the tip of the knife several more centimeters inward so that it was almost piercing his heart. There was suddenly a ripple in the air as a man in tights with a large blade on his back appeared. He curled his hand into a fist and slammed it into the masked man hard. The masked man narrowed his eyes and let go of the handle of the knife to throw a punch back at the man. Both their fists collided. The masked man's hand and arm exploded into flesh and blood. The pieces flew all over. Even the bones had been smashed into pieces. It was only then that the masked man saw the man in front of him clearly. He was tall, burly, and had a gaze filled with the vicissitudes of life. He also had stubble. "Francis," the masked man muttered as he narrowed his eyes. Francis had been on Phoenix Island, and it was not equipped with fighter planes. It took at least 2 hours for an ordinary helicopter to fly over here from there. Yet it had only been an hour since they started fighting the 9th Division. How did he manage to arrive from Phoenix Island so quickly? "Are you going to stop or shall I do it for you?" Chapter 272. Step by step, Francis made his way toward the masked man. His tone had been arrogant and domineering, like it came from a monster in an abyss. The masked man took 2 steps back in fear. "Which family are you from?" Francis narrowed his eyes. His cold eyes were so breathtaking that the masked man felt his courage crumble. He felt a chill enveloping his entire body and could not stop shivering. Francis was an expert at the peak of the profound reality realm. He was one of the guardians of the 4 islands of Draconia. He was rumored to be cruel by nature and possessed a bloodthirst that went down to his core. He even once shattered foreign cruisers that approached Phoenix Island. The masked man took a deep breath before lifting a hand to slap himself on the forehead. His skull shattered, and he died instantly. Seeing this, the other masked individuals also dropped their weapons one after another before killing themselves. The 9th Division was stunned. Who was this man who managed to defeat a formidable figure who had reached the profound reality realm with one punch? He even managed to scare the insufferably arrogant masked folks into committing suicide. How absolutely ridiculous. Francis walked up to the masked man and gently removed the mask from his face, only to see that his facial features were a convoluted mess as if sulfuric acid had drenched his face. Francis raised a brow. A kamikaze fighter. The 10 major families had spent a lot of money to cultivate kamikaze soldiers. These soldiers were not afraid of death, and their duties were to protect the family. These families would not have dispatched them unless necessary. Francis turned to look at Judas. "Is the thing still there?" Judas nodded and replied nervously, "It's still here. Thank you, Lord Guardian." Francis smiled and said, "It's fortunate that my junior Nash managed to notify me in time. Your life would have been forfeited otherwise." After saying that, he turned into an afterimage and disappeared. Judas was startled. Junior? Nash? Nash was Francis Jr.? A long time passed before Judas finally regained his composure. He then murmured to himself, "No wonder that kid has such terrifying strength at such a young age." In Royal Bay, after everyone, including Nash, finished their breakfast, Harrison asked Lauren and Hira to stay at home with Yvonne. He then headed to the company alone. James came out while dragging his suitcase and said, "Today is the anniversary of my father's death. I have to go back and pay his grave a visit. Yvonne, do you plan to go back with me or will you stay in Johnford for a while?" Yvonne bit her finger. "I want to stay here a few more days." James smiled and replied, "All right. Then I'll pick you up in a few days." He then looked at Lauren again and said earnestly, "I'll go back and try to persuade the old man again. It's been so many years since you married. He should be calm now." "Thank you, James." Lauren was both happy and scared. She was happy that her relationship with her brothers had eased, but was afraid that her father would still refuse to forgive her. He was a man as stubborn as a mule. Harrison booked the plane ticket for James and then sent him to the airport himself. Maria came in, worriedly asking, "The thief sneaking around outside last night is outside our house. Should we alert the police? Lauren's and Hira's expressions abruptly changed as the two of them looked at Nash at the same time. I'll go out and take a look. When Nash walked out of the villa, he immediately saw a man in a suit sitting in the park 100 meters away. He walked over to the park quickly and asked coldly, "What are you trying to do now?" I was unable to complete the task Royal Biotech entrusted me with. I failed to get the 4.7 million reward. The man in the suit lowered his head, not daring to meet Nash's gaze. What does that have to do with me? Nash found it rather hilarious. Was this not a blatant attempt at scamming him? The man in the suit summoned up his courage and looked into Nash's eyes. I can offer you my life. I studied at Northdale Mountain for 16 years. Now, I've reached the peak of a Stage 6 grade Grandmaster and I'm only one step away from becoming a Stage 7 grade Grandmaster. Chapter 273. There had been many wealthy families lining up in their luxury cars to welcome him when he descended the mountain. However, his master had ordered him to refrain from being an accomplice to villains after going down the mountain. It was not until his father was arrested because of debts that he contacted Royal Biotech, one of the parties that had wanted to hire him before. He also recently came to a certain understanding of Royal Biotech. It was an exploitative company through and through. He felt like he was deceiving his master and desecrating his forebearers whenever he helped them. Northdale Mountain? Are you Salvia Pat's apprentice? Nash looked at the man in the suit in surprise. There were many hermits on Northdale Mountain, but only Salvia's abilities were the real deal. When he was 8 years old, Salvia had once run over to Teely Mountain to challenge his master. Although she failed, she managed to last 2 rounds against his master. He had witnessed his master engage in a battle with someone who was at the peak of the profound reality realm abroad. That person had just picked a leaf and it instantly turned into ashes. You've heard of my master? The man in the suit was ecstatic. If Nash knew his master, then it meant his worth should also increase accordingly. Just a bit. Nash touched his nose as the cogs in his head began turning. This guy was really strong. Nash could definitely benefit by recruiting a Stage 6 grade Grandmaster Junior for 4.7 million. The man in the suit looked at Nash closely, as if he was afraid that he would not agree. I'll help you pay back the 4.7 million. You don't have to follow me. Just be my friend, Nash said as he put on a sincere smile. The man in the suit was a little dazed. You're going to give me 4.7 million? Just like that? That amount was not a small sum. The largest banknote he had seen on Northdale Mountain was a $50 note, which allowed him to buy a lot of groceries from the market nearby the village. It was enough to keep him fed for a long time. The winery his father ran also only earned $4,000 to $7,000 a month. Nash. Just then, Yvonne and Hira came over. They started feeling a little worried as Nash was gone for some time, so they decided to come out and have a look. As it turned out, Nash was chatting with the thief from last night. The two timidly came up behind Nash, their eyes fixed on the man warily. Nash looked at Hira and asked, "Wifey, has production started with the 1 billion lithography machine I bought you yet?" Hira did not understand what Nash was getting at. She just shook his head and said, "It's just been installed. The engineers are testing it out at the moment. We also haven't gotten an order for 7 nanometers chips yet." Nash looked at the man in the suit again. "Give me your bank card. I'll have my wife transfer the money to you." The man in the suit did not react as he was wondering what was Nash's condition. How did he just buy something worth $1 billion for his wife? He glanced at the luxurious villa behind them and decided then that this man was worth a lot of money. Nash wanted to give him $4.7 million just like that to pay off his father's gambling debts and even refused to let him pay it back. He felt anxious about owing such a big favor. The man in the suit then suddenly asked, "Dude, are you looking down on my character or my capability? Do you even have character?" Yvonne scoffed while hiding behind Nash. Her statement left the man speechless. "You betrayed your initial benefactor after a little setback. I wouldn't want to bring trouble to myself by trusting the wrong person," Nash said calmly. Gaining control over someone was easy. One could either give them certain benefits or use force. Winning someone's heart, however, was not as simple. They had to be taught that two-faced people were not taken kindly. First, Nash would give this man something good. Then, he would reveal his strength so that the other party would think that there would be benefits to be gained by following him. I had no other choice. I needed the money, the man in the suit explained anxiously. It was then that the phone in his pocket rang. He quickly took out his phone and answered the call. "Boy, your 3-day deadline is up and our patience is limited. We're going to chop off one of your father's fingers today as interest." Chapter 274. Immediately after the caller said that, there was another panicked voice on the other end of the call. "No, no, please don't cut off my finger. No." Ah! A miserable shriek followed. The veins in the suited man's forehead popped as he roared violently. "What did you do to my father? If you lay a finger on him, I'll destroy your entire family." "Oh dear, it's too late for that. Come on then. Come and destroy my family. If I don't see the money before 12 o'clock in the afternoon today, I'll feed all 10 of your father's fingers to the dogs." The voice on the other end of the call sounded young. Still, that person's tone was nothing but arrogant. "Winnie, I'm not done talking to you." The man's eyes were red as the phone in his hand was crushed to pieces. Nash immediately said, "Give me your details first. I'll transfer the money to you immediately." He felt a little sorry that the man's father had lost a finger because of the delay on their side. The suited man slowly took out a bank card from his pocket. Nash transferred 4.7 million over at once. Sometimes force is needed to resolve some matters, so don't hesitate. He was a stage 6 grade grandmaster yet was powerless after his father was taken by local ruffians. The man in the suit caught what Nash was implying and said dejectedly, "The man who captured my father is from the 3rd branch of the Green Bamboo Association. The president is Winnie Enders, the grandson of the hoodlum juggernaut who possesses the cultivation of a stage 9 grade grandmaster." Nash frowned slightly. So it turned out to be the Green Bamboo Association again. What a coincidence that they could deal with the Green Bamboo Association together. Hira and Yvonne seemed to have noticed something. After exchanging a few words of whisper between themselves, they turned around and walked toward the villa. Having destroyed his phone, the suited man was unable to transfer the money to the Green Bamboo Association. He had no choice but to go to the bank to have it done. Nash led him to a nearby bank and learned more about him on the way. His name was Finn Carter, and he was 32 years old. His mother passed away 9 years ago, and his father was the only one left in his family. He ran a winery. He lost 4.7 million at the poker table after his untrustworthy friends set him up. While Nash was waiting for Finn outside the bank, Zeno called. "Mr. Nash, the 7 juggernauts of the Green Bamboo Association have all gathered in Johnford. The presidents of 7 of the association branches are also in Johnford. What's more, they mobilized nearly 1,000 martial artists in the energy cultivation realm and 100 martial arts grandmasters. That's equivalent to the Sky family's full strength and captain." Zeno's voice trembled, cold sweat soaking his clothes. It was a force enough to sweep the entirety of Johnford. Nash scoffed. "They came at a great time. Since they're already here, I'll make sure they have no chance to return." Shaking, Zeno replied, "I'll have Mr. Sky send people over." "No need. I've my own way to deal with them," Nash said. Many big shots had also caught wind of this news. Walter immediately called Nash. "Mr. Calcraft, do you need help? I can call about 20 martial arts grandmasters over." Nash just smiled lightly. "Just take care of your grandson. I can handle this myself." Kai's hatred for him went deep into his bones. He might also take part in the Green Bamboo Association's crusade against him. He had given Kai one last chance. If he still failed to appreciate it, then he would no longer give Walter any more face. In the Zell's residence, Grant was sitting in the living room of the villa, smoking. Sydney sneered. "This man sure is daring, but he's a little too confident. Let's not get involved in this." Grant smiled. "I couldn't even if I wanted to. This is the Green Bamboo Association." In the Lee's residence, Joseph and Olivia were having a video call with Theo. Theo was frowning, feeling restless. He knew Nash was very strong. Chapter 275. However, The Green Bamboo Association had mobilized almost all its forces this time. The reason why they were able to establish a foothold in Sagan for decades was because they were strong in martial arts. They were so strong that even the top 10 families of Capitan were not willing to provoke them easily. We have a pretty good network. We can still get 20 or 30 martial arts grandmasters, Olivia said, her voice deep. Joseph had even taken out his phone to reach out to his contacts when Theo said, "There's no need for that. Nash's connections are beyond your imagination. I trust he'll survive this disaster." On Phoenix Island, Francis had also received the news upon returning to his room to cultivate. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. This kid has just come down from the mountain and already he's bringing the sky down. Should we send someone to Johnford to help him? Francis waved his hand. No need. He has a lot of cards up his sleeves. We should just eat, drink, and enjoy the show. In Johnford's Dynasty Grand Hotel, Felicity and Angelica were drinking beer and indulging in lobster when Felicity suddenly received a call from her grandfather. "Grandpa, are you already missing me? I've only been gone 2 days." "As if. You'd better get your butt back here." Upon learning that the Green Bamboo Association had mobilized their 7 juggernauts and most of their martial artists, Snyder Sr. spent a hefty sum to gather the information and found out that these people were all headed to Johnford to seek revenge against someone named Nash Calcraft. Was he not the friend his granddaughter just made not long ago? It was only then did he realize that what his granddaughter said before was true. Nash killed 3 of the Green Bamboo Association's juggernauts as well as Howard Lane. Now that the Green Bamboo Association had gathered 7 more juggernauts and 100 martial artists, what could Nash even do to ward them off? "Oh, I'm not done with what I need to do yet." While holding her phone in one hand, Felicity clinked her beer can with Angelica's. "Then you must stay away from that Nash boy," Snyder Sr. said in a serious tone. Seemingly having realized something, Felicity hurriedly asked, "Grandpa, what did you hear?" At that, Snyder Sr. shared with Felicity what he knew. Felicity frowned after hearing what the old man had to say. If this is the case, isn't a disaster awaiting Nash? Why else would I tell you to come back? Snyder Sr. then added angrily, "You're the deputy chief of the inspection office. You should think twice before doing anything." All his other descendants had failed to live up to his expectations, so he had no choice but to focus on his granddaughter. He did not want to see his granddaughter ruin the Cinder's future with her impulsiveness. "Bah, I know. I promised to stay away from Nash," Felicity swore. Nash was a great help in eradicating the Green Bamboo Association, so how could she just sit idly by when he was in trouble now? However, she had to appease her grandfather at the moment. "Then watch out for yourself. I'll go visit your grandmother first." Snyder Sr. had much trust in his granddaughter's words, so hearing her agree to his request, his tone eased. "What's the matter, Felice?" Angelica was looking at her in danger. "Is Nash in danger?" Felicity took a deep breath before replying. "It's not just that. It's likely he'll have a narrow escape as well." In the Northern Territory, at a heavily guarded prison, Stellar was dressed in military garb with a whip in hand. He swung it viciously at a bound middle-aged man. Frightened, the soldiers at the side were silent. The person being beaten was no ordinary soldier but a major-level general in the Northern Territory. "Still not going to talk, eh?" Snorting, Stellar then picked up a red-hot branding iron from beside him. He stuck it against the middle-aged man's chest.